patch notes have arrived for the Ghost Rider Sin mid-month Halloween update, so let's get right into it. This update's going to be landing tonight at 8 p.m. Pacific, aka 11 p.m. Eastern, so about 13 hours after I drop this video. It's usually a little bit early. I'll be live on YouTube probably around the time that the update drops, maybe a little bit later because I have some things to do. I have some plans, but otherwise I will be live 100% at some point tonight to check out all this new stuff. So let's check it out. We got Ghost Rider's new uniform. It's a full cost seasonal uniform, so keep in mind this uniform will not appear during Black Friday. It won't appear during the anniversary. It will not appear a week after it's gone. So you only have until the 31st. That's the last time you can purchase these uniforms, I believe. Yeah, until the 31st. So you have until Halloween essentially to purchase these uniforms, and then they're gone until next year. So you gotta, yeah, I'm not trying to FOMO you guys. I'm just, pay very close attention to what I'm about to say, and pay very close attention to the reviews that I and other content creators will make, whoever you trust, on these characters or these uniforms rather, because once they're gone, you gotta wait almost a year. It's brutal. So his uniform effect is now just 10% chain hit. I have the old uniform up here on my phone, and I'm looking. His old uniform actually didn't offer him anything. It just changed. It like had the orange text up here. So this is a nice 10% buff here. His passive is remaining basically the same. He gets a 120% increased damage to villains, which is awesome. And then he gets his skill damage bonus damage. They're tweaking. They're actually bumping his skill damage bonus damage and giving him 30% damage reduction. They're taking away his damage reduction versus villains, but it's actually still a buff, because instead of having a 20% reduction versus villains, he has a flat 30% that applies to heroes and villains. So that is genuinely a better buff. His 4-star passive Vengeance is basically the same. It's 90% immunity, but they're doubling his fire damage from 15% to 30%, which is nice. And as you'll see, it adds up. Now, as far as his skills go, you're going to take a look at his skills and you're going to see V-Pad. You're going to be like, ooh, that's nice. You're going to take a look at Chain Throw and you're going to see the healing. You're going to be like, woo, that's very nice. Ghost Rider has a heal now. Let's go. Hey, Ghost Rider, that's huge. Ghost Rider having a heal now is huge. And 30% is not bad. Then you're going to see enables targeting an enemy that has ignore targeting. So you're going to see an iframe ignore skill. And you're going to be like, oh, shit, he's PvP now? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. So he's got these cooldowns here, 18 seconds, 17 seconds, 15, 13, and 10. His cooldowns have definitely been reduced a little bit because his 5th skill used to have a 20-second cooldown, and his 3rd skill used to have a 30-second cooldown. So when you look at these things, you got to keep them in mind when we look at the percentages and we see that the percentages are lower. This is not necessarily a Doctor Strange situation where they just increased certain things and decreased the percentages, because they're also tweaking the cooldown. And the cooldown going from 30 seconds to 13 is massive. It's basically like you can do this, 30 seconds to 15 on Chain Throw. It means you can do this skill twice as often, which means it's doing basically double the damage, essentially, right? Or potentially, I shouldn't say essentially, potentially. So the old percentage on his 3rd skill was 45%. It's still 45%, okay? The percentage on his 4th skill was 85%. It's now 40, so they did cut that one in half. And then on his 5th skill, which used to have a 20-second cooldown, it was an 88% percentage. You can see here, I'll show you guys, 88 percentage on the 5th skill there, and now it's 60%. So they did tweak his percentages, and they did make them lower, the percentages. But they also tweaked the cooldowns to make them shorter. So the 5th skill is 2 seconds shorter. The 4th skill is actually 1 second longer. But then the 3rd skill, as we talked about, is twice as fast, right? Instead of 30 seconds, it's only 15. Now, what happened to his crazy 3rd skill, the King's Gaze, where he also has the iframe ignore skill, true, and he also has that acquires the following effect for 0.1 seconds with a 250% increased damage to villains. Well, he has that now, except it moved. It moved from his 3rd skill, where he has a frenzy buff and a heal. It moves now to his 4th skill, and you can see here, acquires the following effect for 0.1 seconds. However, instead of being 250%, it's only 150%. So that is a reduction of 100%. That's a lot. That is a lot. However, I do want to point out, again, cooldown in this case, unlike Doctor Strange, in this case, the cooldowns do matter. So this skill was a 250%er, but it was a 30-second cooldown. That's very long. Now it's 150, but it's every 17 seconds. So you can more consistently have this every single rotation, right? So it's almost like you're doubling the damage, almost, because you're activating it almost twice as often. It's not quite double, but they didn't reduce it by half. So I still think this is a buff for him. I see people saying that this is a huge nerf. I don't think they really understand how cooldown works. Cooldown is a completely different beast than just percentages, okay? So cooldown, like reducing cooldown is just like raw damage increase when you're talking about going down from 30 to 17. It's massive. So yeah, and he still retains the 100% penetration and everything like that. And then he has a 6-second invincibility with fire damage buffs here on 5. Now, seeing this, seeing the heal, seeing the iframe ignore, people think that this is PvP, but they're forgetting, I think, that King's Gaze has always been this way, right? It's always been iframe ignore with the proc. So we'll have to see the rest of his kit, but at least for now, he still looks very PvE friendly, right? And maybe he has some PvP value, but I wouldn't say he's not PvP or he's not PvE friendly, if that makes sense. And then going over to Sin here. So Sin is going to be the exclusive sort of premium character in the sense that you need to get these tokens to get her uniform. It's not just crystals. You get 10 tokens for free at the end of the Raged Return login event, and you can see the login event here. It's a 7-day check-in, and at the end of the 7 days you get 10 revenge tokens. So if you can wait 1 week basically for the last day, then you can buy of the event, then you can buy 20 more tokens, and then you'll have 30. But you have to buy 20 tokens at least. I get this question all the time. People, I don't know where to get the tokens. You have to spend real money. That's basically all it is. Now in Sin's case, she doesn't have any existing uniform, so there's no point in comparing the old percentages with the new percentages, because this uniform is, this look, basically the base kit for her is so bad. You know, oh wow, her 5th skill had 270%, Alex. That's so much better now than 175%. It's completely different. You're talking about a character from 6 years ago, right? She doesn't even have, she has like 5 hits on her old skills. So I'm not even going to bother comparing the percentages, but hey, she has really high percentages. 125, 115, 125, 175. She has a 30% heal, 50% damage buff, another 50% frenzy buff. That stacks. That's 100% basically. She has paralysis, burn, and silence. So she could be useful for ABX. She might be better than Green Goblin. I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but she could be better than Green Goblin. Did I mention her passive buffs her physical attack by 30%? And then her other passive gives all supervillains 55% increased damage dealt to boss types. So she's a massive, massive support type. And then her uniform effect gives her chain hit and guaranteed dodge. So we'll have to wait and see. She doesn't have guaranteed crit, unfortunately. I don't know if she'll be better than Green Goblin or Red Goblin, but I think she could compete with him. She could, maybe. And if not, she's a better support than, potentially a better support than Mystique. So that is the minimum that you can expect from her, is that she'll be replacing Mystique for most speed villain content. And then she can also replace or sort of be used as an alternative to Black Cat for content where you can't bring in Black Cat because she's not tier 3 yet. All 5 Black Cat fans crying here. Stuff like World Boss Legend and GBR Dormammu. Ghost Rider's tier 4, pretty interesting here. It's very synergistic with Robbie Reyes and his artifact. He gives, when he uses Striker skill, he gives himself 20% heal, which is okay, whatever. And then he gives himself 80% all resistance. So that's fire, cold, lightning, poison, mind. And then he increases his fire damage by half of his fire resistance. So by default, he's going to increase his fire damage by 40% because he's giving himself 80% right there, you know? And if you have even more fire resistance, then this would be even higher. It caps at 100%, which is relevant because you can actually very easily hit the cap. And if you guys don't remember this, Ghost Rider's leadership gives him fire resistance. So his tier 4 has extremely synergistic properties with his leadership. It's sort of like they took Thor's artifact effect and made it similar to Ghost Rider's tier 4 effect. So basically, with the 50% here, and then the 80% you're getting here, his fire resist is going to be minimum 130%. And I actually don't know if it's higher than that because he may have a base fire resistance. After doing a bit of investigating, I realized that I have 11% fire resist on my cards, and I have 4.6 fire resist on my sword. So you deduct that from the 35.6, and I believe he has a base fire resist of 20%, aided by his flame passive, his flame ability. So a 20% base fire resist plus the 80 is 100, plus the 50 from his lead is 150. So just using Ghost Rider's lead and no other supports, when you pop his tier 4, he's going to be giving you 75% fire damage, because it's going to convert the 150 up to by 50%, and then it's going to give you 75. That's massive. 75% fire damage is huge, considering he already has fire damage on his kit. He's got 30% on his passive now. So he'll basically, when he pops his tier 4, he'll have a baseline before any obelisk, any CTP, any support buffs, Ghost Panther, etc., Robbie Reyes. Before anything, as soon as he pops his tier 4, he's going to have 105 fire damage buffs just from his passive and his leadership and his tier 4 converting everything. That's crazy. What that also means is that a Judgment is probably not going to be the best fit for a tier 4 Ghost Rider, because of the fact that he's getting so much fire damage from so many sources, right? And we haven't even touched on all the supports that he could get. But it probably means that either a proc or a rage will be best for him. Now, I say proc. I know you guys are suspicious and probably skeptical, but I say proc because they lowered all of his cooldowns. He could be proc friendly. He very well could be proc friendly. So you could be seeing Ghost Rider with an energy, a mighty destruction, or even, of course, a rage, which is, anyone can use a rage. And then we take a look at Sin's tier 3. It gives her accumulation, which she is lacking on her kit. As far as her tier 3 animation goes, I both like it and hate it. I like it because it's a reference to her dad, Red Skull, and she does the whole Hail Hydra thing, which is sort of like a riff on the Nazi thing, so I'm not going to do it all the way. But what I like about it is that it's reference to her dad, and it's got the Hydra army in the back. But what I don't like about it is it's too much like her dad's, and it also doesn't seem like it has that many hits. If you take a look here, it hits multiple targets, and it only has 400 hits. And it's hitting like 8 targets. So if you divide it by 8, it's like maybe 50, 60 hits. I don't know. Hopefully it's like more 60, 70 hits. But it just seems a bit short and a bit lame. Hopefully it does enough damage, right? It's got 85% scaling here. But yeah, we'll see. It's a cool sort of homage, but it's also kind of confusing. Like, why did Sin get the tier 3, but her dad got the awakening? And what about Crossbones? Like, it seems like there's not a lot of continuity for these things anymore, which is a little bit disappointing for like absolute MFF purists. All right, and then we got the new artifacts here for Ghost Rider. He gets the Immortality artifact. Yes, you heard that right, my friends. Ghost Rider got the Immortality artifact. Yes. So that's fucking crazy. I was blown away when I saw this. Sin gets increased damage to heroes and villains, but it applies to all supervillain allies. So they doubled down on Sin's support passive. Very, very strong here. Probably going to compete with Black Cat in some ways, but I think most people are going to be focused on Ghost Rider. It does mean that both of these artifacts are very high value now, which gives you targets for Black Friday bingo if you didn't already have them. I'm actually shocked at Ghost Riders. That's crazy. We'll have to wait and see how powerful he is for PvP, but this could be a game changer. Ghost Rider could become, a hybrid god. He could become like the free-to-play answer to Jean Grey. I don't know. I don't want to get too crazy. I don't want to say crazy things. I know how high Jean Grey's fire resist is, but hey, they gave my boy Immortality. They gave him a 30% heal. That is probably already enough to make him tanky for PvE, which I'm very happy about. And it also explores other options, taking advantage of that iframe ignore skill, etc. Now, some people see this and they think, oh my god, they're making Ghost Rider PvP only. I don't think so, boys. He still has the 150% proc. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. Let's just wait and see. And then there's some game error fixes. Nothing for Doctor Strange. Again, I just want to be clear for the Doctor Strange thing, because I think a lot of people are confused. Doctor Strange himself is strong. Okay, Doctor Strange himself is strong. He's about as good as Magneto, for ABX, which is a very tall order. And he's about as good or better than Cable for World Boss Legend. And in my opinion, he's tankier than Cable, which makes him better. And he's almost as strong. That's not really the issue with Doctor Strange. The issue with Doctor Strange is not that this uniform is not strong. The issue is that it's too similar to this uniform. Offensively, they're basically identical. That's really the issue. Now, you could argue, or the devs could argue, that they made a mistake with this uniform and that this uniform was too strong, and that's why a year ago he could do Dormammu GBR and he could do it as fast as some tier 4s. I don't really care what the devs, judgment is, or what their sort of analysis is of the situation, because it's their fault. They made this uniform too strong. That's kind of their fault. They have to make this uniform, reflect it. You're asking 1,000 crystals for a heal, basically. Right, you're basically paying 1,000 crystals for a better heal, and that's really disappointing, right? To pay 1,000 crystals for a heal, that's really the issue. So yeah, that's my beef with Doctor Strange. I do still hope he gets buffed, even if it's just a small buff, like a small tweak. They could absolutely do it, but we'll have to wait and see. Like, they could make his tier 3 instantly cancelable. I think if they made his tier 3 instantly cancelable with the new uniform, that would more than make up for the differences. But yeah, those are the patch notes. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. You hype for the new update tonight? What do you think? Smash it, and I'll see you in the next one. I'll see you tonight. Take care.